Alright guys, we have survived yet again another turkey day with our family and friends, which means one thing. We need to focus on the things that are the most important, and that means football. Never in the history of Game Day Grub have I ever focused on the tailgating aspect of the Super Bowl because, let's be honest, who can afford tickets to the big game anyway? But today, that changes. Today we're doing a tailgate edition of the only party platters you need, and we're doing something super special. We are making taco burger sliders. Now that I've got your attention, let's waste no more time and get to making this incredible meal. Before we can start on our burger sliders, let's go ahead and make a quick burger sauce. So the first thing we're going to do is drop in an 8-ounce container of full-fat sour cream into our blender. And I know I may have caught you guys off guard using the words burger sauce, but I first created this sauce a couple weeks ago on some chicken tacos, and it's absolutely dynamite, and it's going to be amazing on these sliders. So the next thing I want to do is add in about 3 chipotles and adobo sauce, making sure I strain out about a half teaspoon of that beautiful adobo sauce into our mixture. This sauce is very pepper forward, it's got a lot of bold flavors, and it's going to complement everything so well here. And then I want to hit this up with a half a cup of lime juice. This is going to diffuse the musky flavor of sour cream and give it that Mexican crema vibe, since I can't find the kind I like in stores anymore. And then we're just going to toss in a half a bunch of organic cilantro, 1 teaspoon of onion powder, 1 teaspoon of smoked paprika, 2 teaspoons or 2 cloves of minced garlic, and a half tablespoon of your hot sauce of choice to bolster the pepper flavor, and then a generous pinch of kosher salt for balance. And then we're going to blend this bad boy together until everything is nice and homogeneous and is a uniform looking sauce. And then we're going in for our first taste test, and the first thing that I'm noticing straight away is that the pepper flavor is kind of muted and pushed back. There's a lot of acidity and not a lot of balance, so the first thing I want to do is add in another chipotle pepper and then a few good pinches of some kosher salt. Guys, to diffuse acidity and to regulate the heat from these chili peppers, salt is the best means of control. So before you guys go and use sugar or sweeteners, salt is the best way, kosher salt especially. And now that it's had another spin, I'm diving in for another taste test, and the flavors are almost exactly the way I want them to be. It's just missing salt. So another couple pinches go in. I'm going to put it on for another round in the blender, and the only thing we're going to do after this, since everything is done and tasting good, is put it into a container and put it in the refrigerator until we need it. So now it's time to move on to our next step. It's time to start making our taco slider meat, and this is 1 pound of 80/20 ground beef. Into it I'm adding in a single 9-ounce tube of pork chorizo. You can use beef chorizo, soy chorizo, really anything that fits your diet as long as it tastes like chorizo. And we're going to mix everything together until it's nice and homogeneous, and then we're going to season this bad boy up very lightly with 1 teaspoon of kosher salt, 1 teaspoon of freshly cracked black pepper, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, and a half a teaspoon of smoked paprika. And once we get everything nice and combined, we're going to go ahead and start forming our slider patties. Now this step might seem a little odd because most people that do these kinds of sliders kind of measure out the length of their buns and then kind of form one slab of slider meat. There are a couple reasons why I'm not doing it that way. The first of which being my stovetop plancha is too small to handle a slab of meat like that. And second, the chorizo I'm using today is known for being criminally greasy, and I'm afraid it will not hold its shape, thus ending in disaster. At first I was going for 12 small burger patties, but seeing as how we only have 1.5 pounds of meat, I'm not sure if that's going to work. And I ended up with 8 nice small burger patties, so let's get to the plancha and get cooking. And onto our ripping hot, well-oiled plancha, we're going to go down with 3 of our beautiful beef and chorizo patties, and like with a normal burger, we're going to let it sear off for 3 minutes. And now it's time to give them the good old flipperoo, and as you can see, we've got some nice crusting happening, so we're just going to smash them down with a spatula. That chorizo meat is so soft we don't even need to use a burger press, and my hope here is after the next 3 minutes, that chorizo fat starts to render and we get some nice delicious crispiness. That's the goal here. So we're going to leave these guys alone for about another 3 minutes. And this is where things fall apart, literally. I don't know if you just saw that, but that first burger patty just separated by that simple act of me lightly lifting it. And you see that one? What's happening is one of my first fears about this was actually coming true. When the fat is rendering out of this chorizo, it's leaving gaps in the protein, which you can more clearly see here because my autofocus finally decided to do its job.
And I've made beef and chorizo patties before on this channel, but never with this brand of chorizo. My town no longer carries the good Mexican brand Supremo. I was hoping by using twice as much beef, it would kind of compensate for the lack of protein in the chorizo. But at this point, I've come to the realization that these can't even be held in a patty shape. So unfortunately, we are going to have to do this in a loose meat slider version, which I absolutely hate. But there's no point in dirtying up a pan or skillet whenever this cast iron is already ready to go. So we're going to continue to cook our chorizo and beef patties in a loose fashion until we've used up all of our meat. And if you thought that ground meat fail was bad, it's about to get worse. I actually went through the process of making my own slider rolls. Here they are. Now, I followed the recipe exactly, and they passed the clean toothpick test. But once I started slicing through them, I realized we had a serious issue. While everything else was cooked completely through from top to bottom, all the surrounding sides and edges were undercooked, and I mean really undercooked. And what makes matters worse is when I tried a piece of the cooked part, it tasted exactly like Texas Roadhouse rolls, which means they were amazing. So that being said, I'm going to continue working on my slider roll game, but in the meantime, we had to get creative. So in true kitchen survivor fashion, I found that I had some King's Hawaiian rolls laying around that were supposed to be used for another night's dinner. But when necessity calls, we make things happen. So as evenly as possible, I divided these Hawaiian rolls in half. Now we're going to load them onto a clean baking sheet where they will now go into a 350-degree oven for 10 minutes. All we're trying to do is develop some crispiness so that way you can hold our toppings. And for those of you who may be worried that the sweet flavor of these rolls won't work with our food, I'm telling you to trust me, because obviously I let you guys know when things go wrong. And after the rolls left the oven, all we did was put aside our top buns for the moment so we can assemble our sliders. And the first thing on is our beautiful chipotle crema dressing, and we're just going to put a nice light layer across the entire surface of the buns here, making sure we don't go too thick because we don't want a sog fest. And then we're going to load this thing with our crumbled chorizo beef and make sure we go from end to end packing these things out. We have unintentionally bandwagoned the viral loose meat slider thing. And now we're going on with our cheese. Now, it's been months since I've used bagged cheese on this channel, but it's the only way I can get some form of authentic Mexican melting cheese on here. And this is just queso quesadilla, a Chihuahua style cheese, and we're going to completely bury our sliders with this beautiful cheese, which ended up being about half the bag. And then after we've layered on that cheese, we're going to go in with a light layer of dried cilantro. Not too crazy here because we already have cilantro in the sauce. And then we're going to put these back in the oven on 350 for 5 to 10 minutes or until the cheese is melted. For me, that was about 7 minutes in, and take a look at that beautifully melting masterpiece. Now we're going in with our toppings, and this is just some tricolor tortilla strips. You can use any kind that you like, because obviously these are taco burger sliders. We do need a tortilla element here, and this is also going to provide some crunch, providing relief for all those fatty, meaty textures. And then on top of that, just for mine only, I'm going in with some pickled serranos. Serranos because my store was out of jalapenos, surprise, surprise. But honestly, I love serranos, and they bring a welcome bite and crunch. Don't put too many on here if you're going with pickled peppers, maybe just 2 per slider. And then, because it's a taco, we're going in with some taco sauce. I was going to make my own, but we had plenty of these on hand and this was just cheaper. I just went in with a light layer of mild sauce for mine to provide a little flavor, but the wife on the other hand is doing a mix of both mild and hot, so all we gotta do now is crown these beautiful slider kings and get this on a plate and get ready to dig in. And despite multiple setbacks, we have created something really delicious in the name of good food, so let's eat.
Alright everybody, it's been a long and trying experience, and I think the world was trying to tell me you can't make these. But you know what? If you're in the kitchen, then you have to be creative, and honestly guys, if it's one thing that we are here, it's creative. And we still put together a good product, I think. Alright? Taco sliders. And what's cool is, what's trending these days is sliders on the internet, which is where I happen to be right now, is that there are these loose meat sandwiches that they put on Hawaiian rolls, and guys, this is what this is. So let's try it out. Honestly, knowing how good this is, I would have been devastated even more to have not made this video. At first, I was kind of wondering if these King's Hawaiian rolls would work because they're the regular ones with the sweetness to it. But honestly, this kind of brings everything together and gets a sense of balance. You got spice hitting you heavy from the chorizo. For me, the serranos that I pickled. And then, of course, you got that little bit of acidity from the hot sauce, as well as there's a lot of pepper flavor in the burger sauce. That's bomb. This is dynamite. I'm not ashamed of this at all. So, guys, use a better quality chorizo. In fact, while filming this, I was just telling my wife, since nobody in town carries the good stuff anymore, I may have to end up doing my own chorizo. That being said, I do have a meat grinder. I do know I can locate everything I need to make chorizo. I've only used this meat grinder once, so I'm definitely down for more meat grinder recipes. If you'd like to see me make a homemade chorizo, then just let me know in the comments. If you can make it into a patty with the beef and the chorizo mixture, and to do this successfully like I had envisioned it to, then go for it. But if not, these loose meat sliders like this are perfect. And honestly, if you do it this way, this is easier for a game day prep and easier to heat up on the grill. You guys do with this as you will. This is an amazing meal, and I thank you guys for joining me. As always, do not forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you next week.